and really pretty much every piece of equipment over there should be replaced. The pool needs to be rebuilt. It needs to be carpeted, it needs to be painted. We have a gym floor that, although we made it so that it was workable, it never actually was fixed. And so there is a lot of money necessary to actually maintain the building, which, at least from my understanding of what we're talking about, our 3-year plan that we're trying to lay out here to get our feet back on the ground doesn't address that. And so that's something beyond what we're talking about. And so I just want to make sure that the council was clear that it's not like when they come back with their 3-year budget for over there that that's going to fix the problems with the building. Mr. Antonin.
Just to chime in on what the mayor said, I think the council's, and I know you've been thinking about it, but I think what we're going to have to do is very carefully look at what our long-term needs are, and perhaps is it 2013 or 2014 the referendum for the open space?
2014.
14 goes out. I think we're going to have to look at that point of perhaps going with a referendum for perhaps a community center, and perhaps some other park things, as well as some open space, and try to bring that in, because it just, you've seen what it's taken the last few years for our street reconstruction program, and fortunately we've been able to do quite a bit because of the economic climate as far as the bidding, but that's probably a once in a lifetime situation, so it's not going to be as easy for the MCC and some of the other park and rec needs that we've basically have let slide over the long term. So I guess forewarned is forearmed.
Then Mr. Nephew at one point had indicated that he thought that the 3-year plan was a workable approach, and so I'll just chime in that I think so also. It would be very difficult to try to do something in a single-year period of time.
It's nice to hear there's a plan.
Yeah, well, or at least that there's going to be a plan. And so does anybody have any disagreement with that general approach so that they know what they should be doing?
Great. That's exactly what we're looking for, Council. I appreciate your support, and obviously you'll hear a lot more about the MCC financial system. I think we're, if it's okay, Mayor, we're ready to move on to Gail and the 2011 general fund and levy and budget goals.
We have Gail here tonight. Make sure you get a real close-up on her.
This is Gail. She's a real person.
Mayor and Council, as Mr. All indicated earlier, we are working on a budget document to have available in the next 2 to 3 weeks in preparation for the December 6th public hearing. We brought information to the Council in September regarding the 2011 budget, and at that time Council set a maximum tax levy of 5%. Since that time, we've been monitoring 2010. We've been reviewing information from 2011, trying to come up with, looking for additional cuts or additional revenue. A few of the things that did come up was for 2010, we lost a little bit of money because Taste of Maplewood came in over budget, and Ms. Guilfoyle will talk about that in a little bit. For 2011, we did come up with some additional revenue with the administrative charges that's charged to the enterprise funds. We made some cuts to various departments totaling a little over $24,000. But then I also found an omission from the personnel cost estimates for 2011 where some step increases weren't included in the original estimates. Step increases are not an automatic. It's based on performance, but a majority of them do happen. So we really need to budget for this amount of money, and for some reason it was omitted from that original worksheet. So the net effect of those 3 or 4 items, I only came up with an additional $3,300 over where we were before. The contingency budget of 122 was in the numbers that were given to the council in September. It's looking, we are doing a review of 2011, and we're not finding anything that we, are besides that $46,000 of the step increases, we're not finding, nothing else is coming to light. And from what I understand, the contract negotiations are going well with the union. So part of that 122, we may not need all of it, but staff is, it's up to council, but staff is recommending, with all the uncertainties with everything going on, you never know what unknowns are going to come up. We're recommending to leave it there. If council does wish to decrease the maximum levy from 5%, each 0.5% decrease is about $80,000 of property tax levy that we won't receive. So we either need to come up with additional revenue or additional cuts to make up for that $80,000. On the second page, I have some tables that show what a 5%, a 4.5%, and a 4% city property tax increase would do on different values of homes within the city. And I have some more information I've provided regarding state auditor recommendations, and we are at the low end of the state auditor recommendations, which I'm assuming many cities are throughout Minnesota with what's been going on. So basically what I'm looking for is a general direction to go to complete the budget document for review so that we're at the most, it still may change on December 6th, but if I can get a feeling of where council is looking at going, that would help. And Mr. All may want to add something. No?
You said it all.
Does anybody want to comment on where we're going? Ms. Junman?
Well, much as I have said many times in the past as well, that it would be nice to take the preliminary levy and lower it. I see the preliminary levy as where it has to be this time. And then when you see these numbers, I think it's reinforcing, at least from my sense of our responsibility. Fund balance is kind of a necessary piece of our operation, and people before us, and hopefully people after us, will be hoping to maintain or improve the bond rating, and I don't want to monkey with something that would endanger that, because it endangers everything you do financially from then on out. So I think leaving it at 5 is probably the least we can do, but we set it up for ourselves, so that's the most we can do. So we're sort of, if you will, stuck with it. And I guess I think the 5% levy is living within our means and yet maintaining our responsibilities. So this just reinforces that I think we need to be where we are, and it's too bad we can't have more, but it's life. But I don't want to monkey with, the contingency budget is a necessity. Once you sit here long enough, you know that things come up where that has to be there. And again, I say we don't want, and from my standpoint, we don't want to monkey with anything that would reflect badly on our bond rating when it's been as good as it has been for as long as it has been. It would be a true loss to have to even play with the thought of that dropping. That would be, I think, a disaster.
Mr. Mayor, may I add one thing on just that I was going to talk about the contingency, just for a little historical perspective for the council. We've always used the term contingency fund. We really don't have a contingency fund. We use a fund balance.
Fund balance, yeah.
But what we've done over the past couple of years is, and that's where Gail talks about the 36.1%. If you look back, we had a higher percentage. So every 1% meant that we had $150,000 to $160,000. So that's really what we use for contingency. When we get down to the 36%, the impacts of that, and Gail might be able to talk to it, we typically are able to cash flow things so that, certain parts of the year we have a lot of cash, and then as it goes down and down and down, we don't want to have to go out and do short-term borrowing. And so, but as that cash flow gets closer and closer to the 36%, that's really where we get to the point where we're saying, okay, do we have enough? In addition, if something major happens, a major storm, or something happens in police or fire department where we have a lot of overtime, those are expenses that we have to pay immediately, and that's where that contingency amount and the fund balance really comes into effect of how we operate the city. The other part that I do want to stress is, with Gail putting these numbers together. This is really where it comes into the 2011 versus 2012. There are ways and methods that we could operate where we might be able to defer some of these costs into a future year. The future years look a lot more bleak than this year. It's, as Gail pointed out today, it's kind of like the state of Minnesota doing. I mean, they deferred the school payment. They just deferred it, and now the bills are going to come due. We're not doing that with this budget. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not recommending that. I'm only telling you that that option is available if you want us to explore it in order to reduce the levy at this point in time. You just will have to pay those bills later. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry I interrupted.
That's all right. Mr. Antonin? Oh, Mr. Copen?
In the past, what has been our average fund balance?
On the statement, I have 2008 and 2009 actuals there. In 2008, it was 38.7%, and 2009 was 38.4%. I don't have the information with me for years prior to that.
So it's been going down.
Yes. We are currently using fund balance right now.
That's what we've had to do when, at the end of the year, suddenly we haven't gotten our second market value homestead credit.
Right.
You know, when was it 2008 that
Correct.
in
Yeah.
December, a couple days before the end of the year, they said, ta-da, here's $300 and some thousand you're not actually going to get. Well, the only way that we couldn't change the tax levy at that point. All we could do was dip into the fund balance and you know, so that's part of where we're at now.
Mr. Antonin?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple, 3 points I'd like to make. That one, we're talking about a 5% levy increase, which is not entirely accurate in that if we did have our market value homestead credit or a portion thereof, we could say we're holding the line, that we're not going for any levy increases. Unfortunately, that option has been taken away from us by the removal of the market value homestead credit. The other part is I recognize that there are a lot of businesses, people out there that this is really a very, very difficult time, and so I'm really torn in that it may be possible to reduce the levy, perhaps even just a token. I'm not sure. That may be a feel-good thing. I'm not sure how much it would really assist the individual and businesses that are having in dire straits right now. The last point is that what I've been here. I'll be 2 years in March, and what I would like to do is, in the past, we've had a council. I've had a council contingency. What I call it a council contingency, and if the council so sees this, I'd like to put this $122,000 as a council contingency, so that before it's ever used for whatever purpose or circumstance, that would have to be approved by the council first. I think it's nice to have a fair fund balance, but there may be things that the council wants to do, projects that may come up, different needs during the year that the council wants to address directly. And so that's where a council contingency comes in, where it's not eating at our fund balance or anything like that, but the council is able to react in a fairly flexible manner to the different needs that presents itself. So that's all I had, Mayor.
Mr. Anton and I had this discussion before, and so I understand that we're at the lower end of our reserve or contingency fund. But, I mean, I presume that seeing we're putting together a budget that has us at 36.1 or whatever it is, that we figure that's enough. I mean, am I incorrect in any way? The staff is figuring that the fund at 36, whatever it is without my glasses on, is what we need to have to operate next year. You would be recommending higher, I presume, if you thought we needed more.
Mayor and council, I'll